We're talking about Danny Barlow, man. This dude seems to have a lot of star power behind him. He's winning fights in ways that he shouldn't, man. He's supposed to be knocking everybody out. That's kind of what he's known for. But the man has suffered 2 arm fractures in back-to-back fights, man. One against Varetnikov, the other one against Josh Quinlan, and he won both the fights. But if you recall, I missed on the under on Danny Barlow on the last fight because I was like, what is this dude doing? He doesn't look like himself. Lo and behold, you broke your arm. You just had to win the fight. He got a split decision. Cool. AJ, the thing that worries me, that was last August, and we're only in February. So it's been like 6 months. And 6 months is a long time. But is that enough to come off of back-to-back arm fractures on your power hand, the left hand to God that you're supposed to be knocking dudes out with? Is it enough time? You tell me.
I don't think so, Derek. I mean, 6 months is enough time for your bones to heal, but for enough for you to crack somebody with the power that Danny Barlow has, I don't think so, man. Especially with 2 different fractures going into this, it does provide a lot of pause. Hopefully they've just been working it up, getting it durable again, because yeah, he does have some power in there, and that leads to even more potential to break.
But let me ask you, man, how do you bet against him in a fight like this? You look at him, he's a minus 320 favorite. No, the world knows. It's public information. The man's coming off of 2 arm fractures. Listen, Sam Patterson is nasty, dude. 11 to 12 wins via stoppage. Submission machine. Let him get into mount. It could be over very, very quickly. But he's also one of those tall fighters who just keeps that chin tucked up in the air, man. And against a fighter like Danny Barlow, I just can't bet against those types of fighters, man. You need to be very technically sound, because the thing about Barlow that I find is interesting, and he's a freak athlete with nasty speed and a propensity to just hone in. That left hand is like a heat-seeking rocket that just finds the chin every time. And as long as the arm holds up, I think we're probably going to see a knockout. What do you think?
I'm agreeing with you, Derek. That was one of the notes I had for Patterson. Tall fighter with good range management, but he gets a little bit too comfortable at range, and that's where the chin just starts to peak up a little bit. And with how athletic Barlow is, I can see him crushing that distance until he finds that opening, lands that missile we're talking about. We could possibly see a knockout right here, Derek. I mean, they're both, or at least Barlow's well-rounded. Patterson, yes, he does have the good counter-striking, but he is more of that grappler with very, very slick submissions. So I do see it where there is a world where Patterson can pull something slick right here, but more often than not, I think Danny Barlow gets this win.
Another split stance matchup, southpaw for Barlow, orthodox fighter is Sam Patterson. I'm interested to see what the flying knees look like, that rear leg body kick from Danny Barlow. But AJ, there's not a lot of value here. The only place where you could see relative value, I would say, is the totals. Over 1.5 is minus 110, under 1.5 is minus 120. So if the arm is an issue, I think over 1.5 is a very, very smart play right here. We just don't know. I mean, what does your intuition tell you?
Very, very smart play. I actually like the over, regardless if the arm holds up right here, Derek, because of how dangerous Patterson is. If Danny Barlow gets a little bit reckless in there and he crashes in too soon, especially early in the fight when they're still dry, Patterson has the ability to grab him up, lock him up, and then put him to sleep, or get another kind of submission going. And he is very, very slick and fast with them. So I do think Danny Barlow, as athletic as he is, he needs to be cautious enough to be able to enter and then exit and not be willing to sit in that middle zone and end up getting grabbed.
You know, the UFC's commentary team was very appreciative. They praised Kiefer Crosby a lot in Sam Patterson's last opponent. They praised him a lot for his boxing. They're talking about how crisp his boxing was. Now, Sam Patterson was a little, his boxing is cool, but he doesn't have the best hands. But as soon as it got to the mat, he was able to pretty much it was light work, you know what I mean? It was very simple. I think Danny Barlow is going to be a lot better of a boxer, just like a pure counter-sniping boxer. Right here, I'm just curious, too, when it comes down to the takedown defense, 100% takedown defense for Danny Barlow in the UFC thus far. Not a lot of fights to work with here, but if you're looking at Kiefer Crosby, and then you're looking at Danny Barlow, and you're looking at just the strength of opposition right here, you would say Sam Patterson really has to make grappling an emphasis in this fight, right?
Oh, absolutely, Derek. He absolutely has to make grappling an emphasis, especially with how athletic and powerful Danny Barlow is. He can crack you from when you're not really expecting him to be in range. And with how good Danny Barlow's kicks are as well at range, I do think that provides an interesting zone to where Danny Barlow is able to be very, very dangerous. And Sam Patterson needs to be able to avoid that by smashing that distance and actually crushing it to where he can work his best game.
Yeah, man, body lock him up, trip him, get him to the ground, and try to do some work right here. 6-9 career wins via knockout for Danny Barlow. Like I said, 11 to 12 from Sam Patterson. So even if we go over 1.5 right here, are we expecting this fight to end in a finish definitively?
Oh, Definitively, Derek. I mean, the odds makers seem to see it, at least if you're a Danny Barlow better, opening TKO prop at minus 135. And with how close the opening or the over and under is, I do think we're expected to see a finish right here.
One interesting play, I'm just going to put it out there for the Sam Patterson bettors of the world, plus 425 for submission prop for Sam Patterson, coming off of back-to-back submission victories, 3 submission wins in his last 5 fights. Just something to think about. But Danny Barlow, that's the consensus pick right here. I'm going to bet over 1.5 rounds. I'm taking a total on this one. We're staying away from betting Danny Barlow. Minus 320 is too steep based on the double arm fractures right here. So that's my take on that one. What do you got, AJ?
I agree with you. I like the over right here. And as much as I think a TKO is going to happen, minus 135 might be a little too steep for the double arm break and for what we've seen going in 6 months back. So I think there's a lot of history you got to take into this. I like the over.
All right, fair. That's your main card right